Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm Zainab Dames, the Marketing and Event Coordinator at Digital, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the information webinar on our open call in the Horizon AI Technology Commercialization stream. Before we get started, we respectfully acknowledge that in Canada we live, work and learn on the unceded traditional and ancestral land of Indigenous people. As myself and much of the Digital team are based in Vancouver and British Columbia, we are gathered here on the traditional ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available to access on our website within the next few days. If at any point during the session you have a question, please type it into the chat and we'll address them at the end during the Q&A portion. Joining me today are two of my brilliant colleagues, Nadia, our Programs Director, and Jen, our Programs Manager. Many of you may already know Jen and Nadia from our previous call cycles, and today they will be hosting the presentation and answering any questions you may have during the Q&A. That's it from me, and I'll be handing it over to Jen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sine. Bonjour, everyone, and welcome. It's wonderful to have many of you joining us today from across the country, and we're thrilled that you could join Nadia and I as we share a little bit more on digital, an overview of the current call for proposals, pathways to success, and a Q&A at the end, as Sine mentioned, and we encourage you to post your questions in the chat. Next slide, please. As we go through the agenda, the intention of this webinar and our time together is really for you all to have a better understanding of our innovative model, especially for those of you that are new to us. Go into a little bit more detail around the program details, including things around program eligibility, the evaluation criteria, and other factors, to get a better understanding of Digital's co-investment model, and in determining if this program is the right fit for your concept. Next slide, please. When we look at digital, what we're going to do is also now go through an introduction into digital, a little bit more about our impact, how we work, and share some of the successes and highlights that we have. Next slide, please. At Digital, we accelerate the development and adoption of digital technologies that help with the advancement towards a net zero society, that help in building a healthier Canada, in driving economic productivity, and in producing a digitally skilled workforce. As one of 5 global innovation clusters, we are pan-Canadian with a BC-based physical location, and we've diverse representation not only across sectors, but also across nearly all provinces and territories. And now with phase 2 of the GIC program having started on April 1st, we continue to advance this Made in Canada for the World collaborative approach to both the commercialization and the productization of R&D. Next slide, please. As we take a look at our snapshot of our collective impact, you'll see on the slide here that the co-investment to date has supported development across our investment portfolio of technology leadership, COVID, and capacity building projects to date. And you'll be learning more about the current calls for proposal and where that co-investment will continue to support these efforts. Our projects are exploring international partnerships to expand their global opportunities and also being adopted at global levels. For example, the World Health Organization late last year adopted a Vancouver-developed platform looking at making antimicrobial resistance guidance accessible globally. Of the nearly 500 IP assets generated to date, over 50 are patent applications. And in the knock-on effect of the 800+ million in new funds that have been raised, over 500 million of which have been raised by Canadian SMEs. It's the creation of these innovative solutions that are contributing to the retention and creation of Canadian jobs, and we're complementing these initiatives with investments in digital skilling. Next slide, please. And so for those of you who may be new to us, you might be wondering, how does this all collectively come together? Through this collaborative innovation model, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Consortia size, composition are unique to each solution, just like the problems they're aiming to solve. This framework looks to connect partners across industry, academia, and government, and includes advisors and other ecosystem stakeholders that are invested in coming together in these innovations. And the multi-party agreement that selected projects sign represents the vehicle for the voices at the table. each organization who's at that table is participating and contributing in a meaningful way. Next slide, please. And so we look a little bit closer at this demand-based thinking meets cross-sector collaboration. It really sort of summarizes our approach in those industry-led investments in Canadian SMEs, in propping up their growth in the innovation ecosystem, as well as paving pathways for market adoption and commercial success for organizations. Everyone at the table together, and it's in this unified voice, solving those BHAGs that we're seeing this innovative drive. And that same table can also include having competitors sitting around it in order to tackle these very large problems. Of the IP assets I'd mentioned that have been generated to date, nearly 80% of those are by Canadian SMEs. Roughly 70% of investments are benefiting Canadian SMEs, supporting the development of new IP, of market expansion and scale up, and are all Canadian owned. And what's critical as well is the customer demand side voice that is a key input and is at the table from the early stages. Those buyer insights inform solution development, as well as providing guidance, advice, and market validation through early customer adoption. Next slide, please, and I'll hand it over to Nadia.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for spending the afternoon with us. So today, my part of it, I will be talking more about the specifics around the call itself, and that making sure that that everybody here has a little bit more understanding about it. What you will notice that I will do is that I will be plugging the program guide and the co-investment guide throughout this call to make sure that if you are considering putting in an application to us, that you've printed this off, that you've looked at it very, very carefully. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Next slide, please. So for this call, a proposal is a reflection of what we are focused on at Digital, and that is building strong health system, strong environmental system, and ensuring that Canada is able to capture some of the economic potential in the AI that we have funded in terms of research and really move it into adoption. This specific call is focused on that third point. We are looking for Made in Canada AI. We are hoping that through this program that we will be helping these technologies be adopted across not only Canadian customers, but also the globe. Next slide, please. So this time around, we sort of announced two programs in parallel. So there's the Technology Leadership Program. This is focused on new technologies that are trying to figure out what is their commercial pathways and really trying to set up, bringing a new commercial offering to the market. The Horizon AI program is focused on develop solutions that are looking for a customer, whether that is a first-time customer or a customer in a new sector or a new geography. So for Horizon AI, unlike the technology leadership stream, we're looking at smaller, tighter projects that are starting off with a much higher technology readiness level. Next slide, please. The areas of interest for the Horizon AI, so we've got three areas: AI for health, looking at making sure that there is equitable access across our healthcare systems. We are looking at personalized coaching, both in health and wellness, and some advanced diagnostic and diagnostic support. Where we've got the AI for Earth. The AI for Earth is looking at smart farming, looking at improving our agricultural value chain, food chains, green explorations for our mining and exploration activities, environmental protection and stewardship, and preparedness for natural disasters, including wildfires and floods, and so much more that is making the headlines around the globe. AI for Service is explicitly focused on reducing the time for documentation and administration tasks, and also for streamlining customer service. So the eligibility criteria, so 100%, this is just like a small snapshot of what is in the program guide. So this is plug number 1 for the program guide. Take a look at it very, very carefully to make sure that what you have in mind is eligible for this program. We're looking to accelerate existing made in Canada AI solutions. So your solution should be, if not ready for commercialization, it should be near ready for that. We are looking through this program to have a clear line of sight into your customer acquisition and commercial sales. And what that means is that we would like to see your initial target customers be part of the consortium that is coming to the table. This may include preconditions that will lead to and commercial terms that may lead to a commercial contract either within the project term or outside of it. We are looking at projects that are in total 3 million or more, and they have to be completed by December 2025. We want to ensure that there's a safe and responsible use of AI. So one of the aspects is to ensure that as an organization, you have the capacity and the skill set and to ensure that there's ethical and responsible use of AI. We're looking for a strong, committed consortium. So not only the owner and operator of the AI solution, but also like I said, the target customer, an academic and research partner is recommended in this stream. So it's not a requirement as it has been in some of our other programs. And that there's a strong focus on demonstration of value of your solution. If there is any new intellectual property that is coming in, or if you are looking to enhance background IP, it must have been made in Canada. New intellectual property funded by us, enhancements funded to background IP, our intention is that it will be owned by a Canadian entity and it will remain in Canada. And again, make sure that you take a look at the program guide. It's on our website. Download it and look at it carefully. Next slide, please. So in the Horizon AI, we've got a special little area there called the community projects. So community projects are based on improving community social health and well-being. So in order to be considered under the community project criteria, you have to be working with the community institutions. So that may be hospitals, schools, university, municipality, indigenous group, rural communities, etc. And you cannot be generating a profit during the project, and that you have at least one non-for-profit within the organization. So your non-for-profit may be your community institution. The benefit of the community project is that you have the ability to be able to get co-investment for these community partners that would otherwise are not eligible for direct investment from digital. So in order to qualify, because the devil is in the details with some of these exceptions, we will be looking carefully at the EOI and making a determination whether you qualify for a community project or not. The other plus of a community project is that the co-investment rate for your community partners may be higher than the 35% that the industry partners are getting. This is to really be able to encourage and de-risk some of those adoption requirements for these community partners to undertake such a project. The determination of a higher co-investment rate will be done by an independent project selection committee. So that's done near the end of the project. For planning purposes, assume that your community partners would be getting 35% like everybody else. Next slide, please. So the application process. So we have a two-step application process with a pre-step, which is your intake form. So if you go to our website, you can see, you can go to share your project idea button, and over there you will have access to the intake form. The intake form is really intended for us to understand what the project concept is and to ensure that it is a fit with the programs that we've got. You may apply in one program, and if we find that you're a better fit in another one, we may work with you to kind of shift things around. So focus more on your concept and where you would like to take take your idea through this funding too. Provided that we feel that the project is a good fit for us, you will be invited to put in an expression of interest. This is a 15-page application with questions and tables are sort of put together in the template that will be given to you. At the EOI level, we are really assessing your eligibility, your fit, and your readiness for the project idea, execution, and commercial strategy. This is reviewed by an internal digital team, and usually 2 weeks between, we will get back to you within 2 weeks of the submission of the completed application. If we decide to invite you to the next round, that's the full project proposal. So that is building on this concept and really highlighting the potential for the consortium to scale, and the project idea and the commercial impact that the project will have on you, not only yourselves, but the ecosystem at large. The full project proposal is going to be reviewed by an independent project selection committee. So these are advisors and respected, innovation leaders in Canada. So they will be making a recommendation. Our board will be ratifying their recommendation. Once we've got all of those in place, you will get a notice of award, and that will kick off your contracting. So it's important to note that the contracting itself, what that looks like is that it's a multi-party agreement under a contract called the Master Project Agreement. That means that your consortium parties, so your project partners, are, including digital, are signing that same contract. We are looking for that contracting period to be no more than 60 days. Next slide, please. So in terms of deadlines, so number one most asked question so far is, what is the deadlines for submissions? There are no deadlines. So this is a continuous intake until all the funds are committed. We're looking to commit from our side $20 million of funding into this stream. We launched the proposal, this call for proposal on 31st May. And we're looking, and we have, we've already received a number of concept intakes, and some of the invitations to EOI have also been made. So we're looking at some of the earliest EOIs to start coming in by early July, so within the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we're looking for the earliest FPPs to start coming in August. So that would see that by early September, we will be starting the contracting process. And by October, we would be signing some of our first contracts. So while it's a continuous intake and it's open, I would encourage you to get in, if you have a concept, to get it into the pipeline and start the process with us, so that we make sure that we give a chance to some of these great ideas that are coming our way. Please note that as our dollars are committed, we will be updating the website, so you will have visibility to see how much of the funding is left. Next slide, please. As you're putting together your concept, take a look at the evaluation criteria, and in a little bit, Jen is going to go through some of the success criteria for each one of them and give you some fantastic tips on what to consider as you're pulling this together. But do take a look at it and notice that we are where the number one some of those evaluation marks are. We're looking at commercial impact as being number one. We want to be able to ensure that our project teams are set up to be able to not only enter commercial agreements through the engagement that they do in this project, but this is a foundation upon which you will build your commercial strategy and be able to engage and execute more commercial agreements, not only in Canada, but around the world. We're looking for ecosystem impact, and that means outside the project, what are the benefits to the Canadian economy, to the digital ecosystems, to the sector in which you're working. So consider what are some of the impacts that you may have in that area. Team and management plan, take a look at carefully that your consortium is complete, that any gaps in skills and work are appropriately being addressed, and your technology innovation. So this is, in this particular criteria, focused a lot on the AI aspects of it and making sure that it is visible and a viable, technically viable solution that you are providing to the market. And with that, I'll hand it to Jen to kind of guide you through all the success.
Thanks so much, Nadia. And yeah, just to sort of reiterate some of the pieces as you start to formulate, what those concepts will look like and, sort of envision, your journey sort of through the next steps. So we're going to sort of go over into a little bit more detail, some of the considerations. So if we can go into the next slide, please. So a recap sort of from the earlier slides, as mentioned, sort of in this collaborative innovation model, you're coming together in a clear one voice. And so, designating who is going to be that one that is going to be holding the pen, to ensure that is sort of clearly articulated and formulated through each of the portions that you're going to go work through. And thus, it's also important to stay the course together, from the time that you start building out your concept and sort of having these early ideas through the fulsome application journey and beyond for those who are successful in their application, as Nadia has described. As you begin to formulate your concept and your vision, sort of ensuring as a group that you're also starting to have those hard conversations and starting them as early as possible. And that really reflects not only amongst yourselves as a consortium, but also equally within your respective organizations, as we've come to, discover based on things that we've witnessed firsthand, as those intra-organizational dialogues sort of are transpiring over the course of you putting this application together, you may uncover niggles, previously unknown that you'll need to work through, internally and externally in order for you to have the assurances in proceeding. Next slide, please. When we look a little bit more deeper sort of into the team and the management side, the team is really the foundation of the successful projects. It's something that you'll hear us speak to, very frequently, and it's sort of a quote that we love to share, that it really is all about the people. It's really sort of understanding, each other as partners, as consortiums, understanding, sort of inter-organizationally how you work, some of the opportunities, but also sort of some of the challenges or hiccups that you may have as a group, whether that's, in timelines for internal approvals and making sure, you have those pieces in place as you start to work through this. So it really is that foundation for success. Also ensuring that you're assembling the right consortium across your organizations and really ensuring that you are engaging decision makers from the outset. So that would include your project sponsors, that would include the lead representatives, and having them sort of at those different checks and steps along the way to keep things moving. As you're also moving through these portions, reiterating sort of what Nadia was referring to earlier, is really keeping that product and commercial focus. You're arriving sort of at clarity, sort of in that innovation outcome, a lot of which you've done sort of that legwork to this point to sort of showcase what that is. But you're also looking at sort of what those pathways for market adoption and commercial success are going to be looking like in domestic as well as in international markets. And as you're kind of working through what these defined and what these measurable outcomes may be, what some of those checks and gates may be, this is going to also help you to confirm, that technical validity, looking at the viability from a commercial standpoint, and also may have you identify areas where inputs, from others sort of in this collective, in your stakeholder base, may be incorporated sort of into that market development pathway. Next slide, please. When you look at the technology innovation standpoint, really, again, as a collective, you're working on sort of creating those robust, IP sort of considerations. So, the groundwork for this sort of that really begins at this concept stage and working through, what are some of the things that are going to be provided within this project, what, some of that licensing may look like at the end of a project, background IP or other inputs that will be brought in that your consortia may need in order to achieve their deliverables, or also, what may be needed to support the commercialization of this foreground IP. When it comes to, especially in this case, if you're using third-party or open source ideas or technologies, is really to understand, what are or if there are going to be any implications on the development of that core commercialization. Are there any restrictions to be able to commercialize? Have you done your due diligence in terms of, who you're going to be working with, who you're sourcing this from, what those pathways look like? and really sort of understanding, sort of at the organizational sort of level, what those, roles and expected benefits are, and governance as well as the ethical piece, especially in the framework of AI. This is very important in light of the evolving regulatory landscape that is happening. And this is impacting not only, legislation that is pending in Canada, but as you think about your solution, beyond Canadian borders, what that may look like, from an EU or a US context, for example, and a lot of the very rapid fire evolution that is happening. Next slide, please. From a commercial impact, if we go back to sort of that innovation wheel that was shared earlier on, again, is sort of really looking at considerations on, how the consortium sort of will share in the benefits of these commercial outcomes, looking at what that go-to-market plan, articulating that return on investment. As you look at your consortium as well, when you look at your project partners, what relevant expertise is everyone bringing to support in that commercial strategy? What may need to be addressed there? And as you do sort of this deep dive into this competitive landscape, as you're validating and supporting that commercial opportunity, you're also highlighting, how in coming together as a group, you're able to achieve more than a single organization could alone. And that's sort of a thread that will permeate throughout this journey. Next slide, please. And if we look sort of finally at the ecosystem impact, it's really sort of, taking a step back as much as you are very much sort of, a step very deep in, is identifying what are those complementary opportunities that look at strengthening not only the position of the innovation that is coming forward, but also on a larger scale, what those benefits are to Canada in the advancement of new jobs creation, for example, in strengthening and further fostering academic research in some of these areas, in supporting the growth and the scaling of Canadian enterprises, of supply chain resiliency, and also writ large on ecosystem capacity building, and elements of your project and your proposal that you're putting together, may likely touch, multiple elements of this, if not all of them. So really sort of having that lens to that. You're also looking at exploring sort of who across digital and beyond, can benefit from the leveraging of that IP that's going to be created, from the opening up of new partnership pathways, both nationally and internationally, and looking at, how this will help to support and elevating Canadian thought leadership in global arenas, whether that's through standards development, or other sort of large scale global initiatives. And also really sort of having that bird's eye view of what success looks like and how it can be measured. And now I'll hand it back to Nadia.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. So now that we've kind of understood a little bit about, the supercluster, the digital model, a little bit about the program and those paths, and what are some of those elements that you need to be thought through as you're developing your concept and hopefully proposals through that, I wanted to spend a little bit of time explaining the co-investment model. So in addition to the deadline, a lot of the question is, what do we mean by co-investment model? So we'll go through the co-investment model, some of the principles, and some of the fees structures that come with it. Next slide, please. So some of the co-investment models, it's important to first understand the concept of a co-investment. The co-investment is a concept that we, in addition to all the partners in the project, are investing in this project collectively. So we're sharing in the project outcomes, we're sharing in the risk in getting the project activities and outputs and impact that has been planned to realize them together. By co-investment, we are, it is also just as important to know what we do not do. So the co-investment is not a grant. It's not a fund. That master project agreement is clear on some of those outputs and inputs that we require from the consortium parties in order to be able to make those payments. We also do not take equity, royalty, or share in the IP. But we do take our responsibility as stewards of taxpayers' money pretty seriously. So this, our funding comes from the Global Innovation Cluster, which means that we are often, working with our project teams to understand cash flows, ensuring that the investment rate is appropriate. There may be adjustments through the governance structure or through gates or phases that will see our co-investment increase and sometimes even decrease. So it is a partnership. So it is, and we work together to ensure that It is, we're setting up the projects for success. Some of the principles for our co-investment is that we will provide our co-investment on costs that are incremental, reasonable, and directly linked to the project activities for the project term. Expenses are co-invested on a cost basis, and this is done for your basic salary plus any statutory benefits, on capital expenditure, which with appropriate pre-approvals if it's over $1 million, and foreign costs, again, pre-approved with enough confirmation and validation that specific work or item could not be sourced from Canada. This remains a not-for-profit project, so the intention is not for any one consortium party to be making a profit from it. This is a de-risking of the adoption and ensuring that there is a commercial pathway outside of this project. So we are co-investing on the cost of the project and not on any profit that is going to be in there. And then we feel strongly about skin in the game. So project partners that are coming together, we are looking for everybody to make a meaningful co-investment within the project. And that doesn't always just mean money. It could be in service commitment. It could be in support. It could be in opening up their network in order to support future commercialization. In order to receive co-investment, you can look at the eligibility criteria. The number one folks are usually the for-profit organizations. There's some caveats for non-for-profit if your funding is coming from predominantly private sources, and in some cases we have the community partners in this stream that may be eligible for co-investment. All parties getting co-investment from us need to become members, and one slide over we will be discussing the membership model. Next slide, please. So the co-investment model, so like I said, it's a cost incurred model, which means that every party is first incurring the cost. So if it costs you $100 to do, to be able to deliver something, you will incur those $100. You will claim that cost to us, and then we will co-invest on our co-investment rate, which is at 35%. We will be adjusting our project-based membership fees. There will be some GST, PST, HST deductions, depending on where you are. And so the net payment that folks will be getting will be closer to 30% of the eligible cost after all those fees have been deducted. Again, like I said, you need to be an eligible organization, and you do need to be digital members. Next slide, please. So what do I mean by members? So we have two levels two levels of participation in our organization. So we have associate organizations, and this is a no-fee participation and invitation to be part of the digital club. These are ecosystem players, and you may sign. You may be part of a project as an associate, but you cannot receive direct co-investment from us over here. In order to be an associate, you're signing a participation agreement that really outlines some of those values of engagement and some basic framework of confidentiality and non-disclosure in there. When we say members, what we're talking about is organizations that have made a commitment to co-invest in a project, and that they want to gain access to some of the funding that we are providing. This membership comes with a signed agreement, so this is called the membership agreement, and with some fees that are associated with it. There's an annual fee of $5,000 and 5% of all costs claimed that are deducted at time of claim payment. So that second part is, pay the fees as you claim your cost model. So that's some of the money aspects of it. As you're going through the concept, as you're trying to figure out if we are the right place for your project concept and for you to come and build your, take your solution to market with, make sure that you do take advantage of all the resources and support that we have available to you. So next slide, please. So on our website, we have those amazing guides and our co-investment guides. So the program guides outline a lot of provide you a lot more details around some of the details around the program, such as eligibility, the community projects, some of the aspects of memberships, etc. The co-investment guide provides you a little bit more details about what is eligible costs and what are not eligible costs, and how to determine if it's incremental, etc. On our website, we have an FAQ section, and we are updating that, as you know, on a weekly and bi-weekly basis. So you can always go there to see if we have your question answered. Updates and announcements regarding the program, so not only funding, but if there's other webinars, other materials that are coming out, those will be put in there. In addition, you know, you sign up for our newsletter, and you'll be getting that through that as well. The webinar links are going to be there. We will have a recording of this webinar, or you know, if not by the end of today, we'll be there by tomorrow, including a copy of this deck that we're going through over here. And the concept intake submission is also through our website. For all our associates and members, we have a secret space in the community called the community portal. So if you go to our website, it's on the top right-hand side. There's a button right next to join. So you just click on that. You'll need to put your username, password. Pro tip, if you signed up, make sure that when you're logging in, you put a .dts at the end of your email, because that's the #1 reason why most people are not able to enter. And you should be able to access some of the digital reports, or some of our annual reports, our policies, etc. are available. There's some memos, etc. We have project-related templates, so it gives you a sense of what is some of the administration and reporting that is part of the project. And within the secret space, we have an even more secret space, which is called the proposal portal. Once you submit your concept, you will get access to the proposal portal. This space is intended to be for the folks that are putting in the proposal, to get an update about where their proposal status is. It is also where folks that are invited to submit their EOIs and FPP will be making their submissions. Next slide, please. If you have questions and you know we're not able to get to them today, or you need more details, drop us an email at proposals-support@digitalsupercluster.ca. We'll get back to you within 2 days. And then once you are invited to an EOI, you will be assigned an investment lead. So this is folks from digital as well as external advisors that will be providing one-on-one support to you through the life of the proposal, and maybe even beyond. So take advantage of the learnings and the advice that these investment leads are providing. They're not there to write your proposal, but they're there to guide you if we see gaps, or we see areas upon, opportunities for you to expand upon and set you up for success through this process. So hopefully after you've kind of gone through this and take a moment, look at those amazing guides, formulate your project concept, see if it's a good fit with what we're looking for. You have questions, you would like to speak to somebody, drop us a line, let us know, and submit your project concept via our website. We'll get back to you within a week with our feedback. And that's it for today. So happy to take any questions.
Great, thanks, Nadia. I'm going to quickly swap over to our Q&As on the side. Okay, ready? The first one is, can one organization submit more than one application? Let's say one for AI for service and another one under the community projects.
Yes. You can do both. You can even do one in Horizon AI and technology leadership. So we would want to, though, however, ensure that as you're putting in those proposals, understand if the organizations involved, especially if it's the same lead, has the capacity to do both those projects in parallel. These projects tend to be quite intensive, so we want to make sure that we are, again, setting you guys up for success.
Great. Next is development of AI-based supply chain optimizer models, which help the manufacturing ecosystem in Canada. Is this an example of a project that could be potentially funded?
It could be, but we really advise our projects not to boil the ocean. So focus on an area, focus on a sector, focus on a use case upon which this model can be tested, validated, and can go to, you can provide that demonstration of value and take it to market. So, you can take a look at the areas of interest. So if it's especially if it's related to health or earth, so environment or disaster, it's a great fit in those areas. If you're looking at services, et cetera, and finance, probably not the best case, but for us, it would be appropriate if the sectors are health and natural resources for that supply chain model.
Okay. Next is just wanted some clarification on Made in Canada. Does that mean we can't leverage existing open source projects, for example, TensorFlow or any existing AI ML tools on cloud providers?
I don't know, Jen, do you want to take that one?
I can take, yeah. So just sort of to what I reiterated, it's not to say you can't, but really understanding, if there are any limitations or restrictions on being able to, incorporate that into your solution, and or if there are going to be any restrictions, in order to be able to use that for commercialization purposes. So, as you're working through, conceptually, it's really doing that due diligence and understanding, what is and isn't sort of possible in that framework.
I think it's also important to know how the tools are being used. Is it a tool for development? Is it a tool that will be packaged in your commercial product or not? And really looking at what are the limitations to it, right? So we have concepts that are coming in that are building on ChatGPT, so the core solution would be there. While in other cases, some of those open tools and licenses are being used for the development purposes. So it's also important to consider how those are being used within the project.
Great. We have a little bit of a longer one, so bear with me, Nadia, when I read. I'm finding the co-investment aspect confusing. So the supercluster funds are up to 35%, but if the tech is suitable to client, then there is a licensing agreement to make up the balance 65%. Is that right? If so, what kind of documentation do we need from the potential client? It seems like the co-investment has a dependency involved, i.e. it meets client requirements.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to break that up as well. So there's a lot of things in there. So the co-investment model means that you will incur the cost and we will pay 35% of it. The remaining 65% and to be honest, it'll be closer to 70% once the fees are done, and there'll be some ineligible fees, so it may be even more than that. Those aspects of it need to be filled out by other funding sources. Predominantly, that would be your organization itself. It may be done through payments or other stacking mechanisms that you have. It may be done through external grants and funding. It may be done through a commercial agreement or payment from a customer. So that 70%, we're really looking for each of the parties to kind of figure out what is the best way to do it, how to manage your cash flow on that part of it. So in terms of the customer, what the ideal scenario would be to have the customer be part of the project, so be a signatory on the master project agreement. That isn't always feasible, especially if you have international, multinational organizations. They're not always able to sign up on those. In that case, we're looking for some sort of service agreement. It doesn't need to be a commercial agreement. In some cases it is, but we are looking for some sort of agreement with that customer, and ideally some sort of line of sight to allow their inputs to be visible to the rest of the consortium as well. So Sean, if I didn't answer your question, feel free to drop me an email and I can walk through some of those with your concept. But that's the high level general overview of those pieces.
Thanks. Next is, would the ideal project have the product already in early stages of commercialization or pre-commercialization?
Yes. So, we're looking at it to be a technology readiness level 7. at minimum. Ideally, you're 8 and 9. So if it's in early stages of commercialization, this stream is really targeted towards helping you adopt have your solution adopted with your first customer, or if you're expanding your market reach, it's in the first customer in a new sector or new geographic area. There may be some customization and some configuration needed for those deployments, some change management activities, etc. But we are not looking for solutions that still need a lot of R&D and a lot of work in order to get them ready for the market.
Next is, hi, there doesn't seem to be significant differences. Oh no, there's a comma in there. Hi, there doesn't seem to be significant differences between the stream and the leadership team stream, except the size of the project and the impact the SME should have on the project. Could you please explain a bit more how the two streams differ?
Yes, so there is a difference. So one is looking to create a new solution focused with the R&D and innovation, a lot more creation of IP and exploration of what that market will look like. So you may work with 2-3 customers or 2-3 avenues of going to market. This stream, the Horizon AI, is working with a lot more developing commercial ready solutions, so less R&D, more focused on adoption and getting those solutions to market. So that's the main difference. A technology leadership project we're looking at 3 years, around 20 million in size, whereas a Horizon AI one is much smaller, predominantly focused on the adoption piece of it, the configuration and customization.
Nadia, I think it would be best for you to read along with me with the next one. Which category does a deep tech industrial artificial intelligence company enabling oil and gas producers, utilities, EPCs, and equipment manufacturers to meet their decarbonization goals by using AI to build digital twins of brownfield industrial plants and embedding intelligence and making new age equipment intelligent from the ground up, enabling faster and scalable adoption of equipment essential for meeting net zero targets? Fall into?
It would fall under AI for Earth. So that's where it would fit in. Yeah, equipment, build digital twins. Yes, it would go into the AI. Though I would have to understand if some of that is based on production, like improving productivity. So it may touch AI service, but my gut is that it's AI for it.
Next is, are small startups who are still in the pre-seed funding rounds eligible for this?
Yes, as long as the cash flow, you have cash flow to be able to manage this model. Like I said, for some of the younger startups, the cash flow can be a barrier to participate on our projects, and that's because we are cost incurred. You need to incur the cost in order to, and then claim it and then get it. So you need to be able to carry that cost for about 3 to 4, sometimes 6 months before you're going to get a payment from us. So it just depends on the frequency of the payments and when those costs are incurred. We usually encourage participants in our projects to at least have cash flow that would allow them to cover their first year of costs.
The next is, can one organization submit more than one application? I mean, 2 for AI for services.
Yes. So, nothing stops you from putting them in, but like I said to the earlier question, the question will be like, can you do both of them in parallel? Or can you combine them into one, right? So, yeah.
Next is, the projects seem orientated to B2B businesses. Could a B2C company be a fit?
The challenge with the B2C would be like, where would you find your customer pool? So, it depends what your C is. So, I do think it is focused on that. It's focused on those bigger customers, so that, and then your end users are over there. But I would be curious, like what model it would be and how those customers and that voice of the customer and adoption would be kind of built into the project. We don't see it often on our projects, though.
Next is, should this be a brand new AI model that is being created for this project, or does an existing AI product developed in-house but modified for a new use case fit the project?
So it's the latter, right? So we're looking for something that is already sort of ready to go out into market and be tested, and its value demonstrated through a real life implementation.
Great. Next is, when is the due date for annual fee? Before the approval of the project or after?
So we actually, for members, it's a great point. So we are looking for folks to become members at time of signing. So what that means is that it will be at the time when you sign the contract. So you don't need to become full-time members right during the proposal process. Even if you do, we will not, we may send you an invoice, but there's no expectation of payment until your contract is signed. If you sign up to be a member and we're not able to either your proposal wasn't approved, or we weren't able to complete the contracting process, then we will reverse the membership status.
And our very last one is healthcare or earth are the preferred or the only specific areas of interest. For example, are aerospace or EV automobile sector related projects not eligible for funding?
Well, it depends what you're doing in the sector, right? So if you're looking at some of those productivity questions and you're looking at some of those reducing administration use cases, then yes, they are. For EV, I would recommend NGen, which is our sister cluster. So that they're very much focused on that, and they're also running a similar program. So they may be a better fit. They've got a much stronger ecosystem in that area. But yeah, so for us, it's health system related, earth systems and natural resources related, and then productivity and reduction and administration and improved customer service. So those are the areas that we're looking at. That third box over there is sector agnostic.
And we've had one more come through. Are awards for the Horizon AI stream restricted to projects with a minimum total cost of $3 million, or is there any capacity for smaller awards?
At this moment, we're looking at a minimum total of 3 million. So if you're at 2.5 and it's a compelling project, we may consider it. But if you're at 300,000, then then we may not be the right home for your project at this point.
Okay, I don't see any further questions that have come through. So good job, team. I'm just going to reiterate that this recording of the session will be on the website, so you can visit our website at Digital Supercluster CA. And then also we're going to be sent out an email that's going to have all of these resources and the links to everyone that registered for the webinar today. Sorry, Nadia, I see that there's one more that came through. If you want to quickly do that.
Yeah, so could you help us better understand cost recovery schedule? In a hypothetical 3 million project within the Horizon AI program, which is 12 to 18 months, you could generally expect an average spend of 500 per quarter. Would you receive reimbursements after 3 months or the commencement of the So we have a facility of advances at the beginning of projects, so that there's always that possibility, but that needs the appropriate approvals and reviews. Otherwise, we are reimbursing costs on a quarterly basis. So often you will find that at the end of the quarter, you need to make sure that all of your reporting is done. There is confirmation that the work intended was completed or the replanning was done. That is then followed by the claims process that usually takes 2 to 4 weeks to go through. So you can imagine that it would be 3 months plus 45 days for that processing before you will get the funding, the payment from us.
Okay, great. Jen and Nadia, if there's any closing remarks that you guys have?
No, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, so look forward to getting a lot of your concepts and ideas. They always are very inspiring.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.